Hi everyone, my name is Eddie Copeland, and in this video I'd like to give you a brief introduction to digital government. Our starting point, I think, is to recognize that all of us in our personal and business lives have seen a huge amount of change thanks to digital technologies, from the way that we shop, to the way that we approach education or work, to the way that we interact with our friends and families. And all around the world, I see governments asking the question, okay, given that level of change that we can see in all these other areas of life, what is it that we need to do to take technology, to take digital transformation and deliver really better outcomes for our residents or our citizens, and improve the services that we offer? And this question I often see, should governments be technology driven? Now, the answer I want to give to this question is in fact no. In fact, I think there are real risks to governments having an overly literal interpretation of this term digital government, of thinking it means it's all about the technology, about being technology driven. Because if we do take that approach, a number of negative things can happen. So let me tell you about those. The first thing is that I see governments focusing on the technology rather than the real world ends that they exist to serve. Now, I'm guessing that each and every one of you has gone into the world of government because you fundamentally believe that you want to deliver better results for citizens of your country. And the problem with calling this digital government is that we end up talking about, do we need artificial intelligence? Do we need blockchain? Do we need cloud computing? We spend all our time talking about the tech rather than the thing that we are there to do, the real world outcomes for residents. And in my mind, technology and data and these new innovations are just tools. They are the means to the ends, but it is the ends that we should rightfully care about. And only by being crystal clear about the change we want to see in the world can we have a sensible conversation about which tools we need to do the job. The second risk of calling this digital government is that the role of digital technologies in delivering reform gets overstated. Digital tech data, these are incredibly powerful things. We live and breathe them every day, but they're not the last word on everything. And in fact, this diagram I think is helpful. It comes from the Innovation Foundation Nesta and describes the whole range of different innovation methods that are available to public sector organizations. You'll see the slides so that you can read this at your leisure. But a key point here is that technology and data are just a small number of the tools available to you with which you can get good things done. So let us not overstate the role of tech and data. In a related point, I'd go further and say, in fact, in any given policy area, in any given service environment, unless you have the right people and relationships, the right skills and competencies, the right assets and resources, the right ways of working, data and technology cannot make up for the absence of those things. They can really set you apart and deliver incredible change if those fundamentals are in place, but they are not an excuse to not pay attention to all of those other core things that governments need. Lastly, there's a risk that organizations, if they think it's just about the technology, end up taking new digital tools and all they do is bolt them on to the same old ways of working. That leads to a very superficial level of change. And the point I'd make is over the last decade, we have seen exponential levels of innovation in the technologies available to governments, but we've seen a fraction of that innovation on the processes and ways of working to which those tools are applied. And so I'd show you this diagram, and what just to talk you through it. On the left here, we've got new technologies. If you take them and you apply them to your existing ways of working, that bit in purple at the bottom, you will get incremental levels of change. However, if you take new technologies and add them to creative thinking about user needs, about business models, about funding models, your processes, your structures, ownership, organization types, if you're willing to innovate on those things, the level of change technology can create for you will be absolutely massive. So, in summary, don't think you need to be technology driven. Shun the words technology driven, data driven. Technology and data are tools. They are there to enable you to do what you want to do. They shouldn't be driving you to do anything at all. Instead, be outcomes driven, be driven by the results you want to see for your residents. Then you can have a sensible conversation about what tools you need to do the job. It can be very helpful in your internal conversations with colleagues to make sure you're on the same page with your definition of what we mean by digital. And the one that I prefer, that I recommend to you, is that from Tom Loosemore, who was one of the founders of the UK's Government Digital Service. And he says this: digital is applying the culture, processes, business models, and technologies of the internet era to respond to people's raised expectations. Notice how technology is last on his list after culture, processes, and business models. And in fact, what he's saying is that government should be asking themselves, how do they use everything that is now at their disposal, thanks to the fact we live in the internet era, to get good things done? And if we think in the business world of the most disruptive companies, from Facebook to Amazon to Netflix, or think of your own local examples, the chances are they are not successful and radical just because they have a nice website. It's because they have changed all of these other things. So, what is it that we can do with digital government? Let's finish up by just trying to understand that a bit more. Number one, of course, you can streamline your existing services. Yes, of course, you do want some better websites, but fundamentally, let's keep in mind a few things. To create great streamlined services, the number one rule is you've got to start with user needs. What does the citizen want? It should be shaped around them and their needs, and certainly not require them to have an encyclopedic knowledge of the structure of your government departments and which different team they should approach in order to get things done for their key life events, whether it's registering a birth or a death, or applying for a passport. Second thing to mention on this, your own staff are users as well. So often I've seen governments invest in incredible services that look amazing to the citizen, but which are chaos behind the scenes. We've got to make sure we have a streamlined service that's designed to meet both the resident needs, the citizen needs, but also those of your own staff. Second, and more excitingly, we can develop whole new service models. Let me give you one example of what I mean by this. This is the Good Sam app you'll see on the screen here. And if someone has a heart attack, what happens is that in many countries, the UK included, someone will call for an ambulance will be sent, but at the same time, they can use the app, the Good Sam app, to alert trained first aiders who are within the vicinity of the victim, who may be able to get there first before the ambulance and save a life. And indeed, this app has saved lives. The key message I want to give, though, is that this is not an app that just calls the emergency services. It is an app that has augmented the capacity of emergency service response units by tapping into a volunteer network. So again, this is not a digital tool applied to the same way of working. They have changed the whole environment that the technology enables, delivering far more radical and successful, literally life-changing results. You can, of course, use digital tools to engage citizens in new ways. This isn't just about services, this is about democracy. And the image here is the city of Reykjavik in Iceland, who have really gone to town on making sure that digital tools are being used to give citizen a voice in local decisions, local policy decisions, how local budgets are spent, to make sure that they have a voice, that they're engaged, that it isn't just about having elections every few years. Lots more I could say about this one. Lastly, of course, with technology, we can use it to interpret data better, data that helps us understand the nature of the world, the problems we're trying to address for our citizens, the opportunities that are present, and to make sure that both our services and our policy decisions are evidence-based. So much that technology can do to make data enable better conversations for us. So that's just a few things, a very brief highlight. I've written more about this in this report for Nesta. You'll find the link here should you be interested in further comments I have on this. For now, though, thank you very much for listening, and I wish you best of luck with your digital government journeys.